Right, so we're going to pretend the camera's not on.
The camera's not on.
And we're
Cheers.
Talk about
Happy breakfast to the podcast. So, all right. I was thinking, like, why are we here? Like, this morning I was journaling and I was like, what is the whole point of this, right? Like, why are we bothering to record our goofy conversations and what's coming and like, what are your thoughts as to why maybe you can tell your story of how we got to here.
Okay.
And then I'll tell my story.
So do we introduce first? Do they need to know who we are? Or do we just tell our story?
I feel like we can do that.
Along the way?
Or like
we don't start out like, hi, I'm Tammy.
Well, you can be Tammy. You want to do that? Go ahead.
I don't know. Do you?
This is my friend Tammy.
Well, that would be
and
good.
She's the CEO of Lifework Leadership. And we fell into a relationship together because we have like lots of similar traits.
Not that kind of relationship.
Not that kind of relationship. A friendly relationship. Okay. No, we should not introduce each other. No. Okay.
All right. So no need.
This is why people make an agenda for these things.
Yes. Yeah, no need for an introduction. Okay. Yeah. So how we got here, for me, I think it's been twofold, threefold, lots of folds. Recently, though, I think how the Lord works in my life is I get these ideas and I get lots of them.
Yeah.
And the ones that come to fruition are the ones that the Lord just kind of has to make it really plain, and so.
Yeah, it keeps like pinging.
Yeah, like it just won't go away.
Right.
So we've been talking about a podcast for Lifework, which is what, I do. And it's just, as hard as I've pushed to make it happen, it just hasn't happened. And it's not for lack of effort. I mean, it's just we've been pushing.
And you're good at it. I watched today's.
Did you watch?
I watched the church
Eric
one.
Dellenbeck?
Yes, he was fantastic.
It was amazing.
Oh my God.
I downloaded Care Portal.
I know. I was like, okay, I can't unsee it.
We can talk about the Care Portal. But
we can just talk about a lot of things you can't unsee.
So,
I love that.
I mean, it's like I've been trying to get that to work because I thought that literally when I go to my goals for this year, one of the goals was I just wrote a podcast. Right. And in my mind, I thought it was the Lifework podcast. But for the life of me, I can't get that
off the ground.
Just going. There's just been a million things. So, then like everything, we always talk about we're people of action. So when one doesn't work, you pivot, right? And so that's been part of this pivot for me is, okay, maybe it was a podcast, but not the way that I thought it was going to be. And then we did a global Lifework session a couple weeks ago. And Alan Platt, who's the head of City Changers, who's basically the head of Lifework, did an entire 20-minute message to us on innovation. And he basically just kind of called us out. Me especially, I felt it. He said, as we get older, the world is changing, and we don't necessarily adapt as quickly as the younger generation. And he used the verse, which I had never heard this verse used in this way. I mean, I've heard the verse a million times, but he went to the verse that says, I am now doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? And he just looked at us on Zoom and he said, what if the new thing is digital and you are just old and you're not perceiving it? And I was like, oh, that just kind of hurt my heart. That's a very loud
problem.
ice cream machine.
Note to self, Mr. Softy may need to leave us.
Turned off if we're going to do it.
Yes.
So that was like another thing that I was like, you know what? The digital world, podcasts. I mean, everybody and their brother is doing a podcast right now.
Yeah.
So there's a part of me that's like, it's already been done.
Right.
It's overdone.
Right. Yeah.
I don't understand that world. I don't want to do it. And so then I just kind of steered away from it. But then you and I met this last Tuesday, and we've been meeting pretty regularly now for a while.
Because we were going to write curriculum.
We were going to write curriculum. And I think that was my third big push was we recognized that there is nothing in our area for Christian women in business that are working. There's just nothing here. There's a lot for men. We've talked about this a million times, which I'm sure we'll talk about a million times more. And so we thought, okay, we'll create something for them.
Right.
But my heartbeat is
I don't have time.
Christian, working, mothers, women are the busiest people in the city because you are working, you've got your kids, you've got your family, you've got your faith, you've got your work, all the stuff.
Right.
And they don't have time to do another
I mean, I don't want to go to something.
I don't want to go to something. If somebody invited me now, I wouldn't go.
I'm saying.
Right. But a podcast,
Right.
we can have hopefully that same kind of conversation, and
Right.
women can listen to it when they want to, whoever.
In the car,
or
like
nobody
driving
has
to work. Nobody has
Just
to.
be you and
We'll
I.
just tell people that they have to because they like us, and
That's
that'll
right.
be, or they work for us.
They work for us. You must.
Part of your
next
job
evaluation,
description. Part of your job description is that you will listen
you
to
must
my
listen to it and like it.
podcast. You must listen to my
So
podcast.
those are my okay, maybe
Okay.
it is a podcast this year. It
Right.
wasn't life work. We wanted to do something for women anyways,
Right.
but we don't have time. And we kept trying to write the curriculum, and we were like, we're going to have our first informational meeting in March.
Right. I
We're going to
know.
have all the curriculum written in our first meeting in
Right.
March.
Not
we
even
don't have
close.
anything
Right.
done.
Right.
It
And
just-
I've really struggled with that.
Yeah.
Like, what do I have to say? And I think, like, we're sitting here with no name, no agenda,
Right.
no plan. Like, let's just get it down so that we like have something to work from. And I was thinking about like, okay, why? Like, what do we think this is going to turn into? And I was thinking, you and I have had this discussion so many times about like, how do we share our experiences as working women, as moms, as Christian women, and like not feel guilty about any of it, right? And I'm older than you are, but I mean, I feel like I've spent a ton of my life trying to figure out how do I fit into this man's world thing. I did a CEO roundtable. They were all men. It was great. I learned so much and they were objective, but like, I was sort of like, yeah, but what if I cried in a staff meeting?
Right.
And they're like, you can't cry in a staff meeting. And I'm like, oh, but I can.
But I can, and I
because
will.
I do, and people still come. So then I tried like a women's group, and it was like a Jacksonville business women's thing, and it was great, but it was sort of the opposite. It was like, oh, I'm going to say something that's going to hurt somebody's feelings, and I'm going to make somebody cry. And so like that's the early part of my career where I spent so much time like trying to see if I fit in and where I fit in and how I fit in, and I think like that's what I would love to be able to share like to people that are at an earlier point. And I think you do such a good job between life work, between your dissertation, of talking about like there's a place for all of us. And then I've sort of gravitated this year to the women of the Bible. And I don't know, I mean, you've heard me say this 100 times, I don't fit in. My marriage doesn't look like everybody else's. My relationship with my kids don't look like it. My work doesn't look like anybody else. My home life doesn't look like anybody else. Like I feel like I'm lost in a misfit, right? I mean, we called ourselves misfits for a whole year or two. We had hats that matched that said misfits, And I think like, I wish somebody had poured into me and been able to say, look, been there, done that. It's a rocky road and you never get it right. And there's no such thing as balance. But having studied some of these women in the Bible, I'm so amazed that I can see myself in every single one of them. And God's teaching me something about every single one of them that actually I'm more like how God created women than I ever thought. And so I feel like this is, like you're saying, we've struggled with how do we get this out there? We think we're funny. We think we're smart. I mean, we think we're perfect. And we've got all of this figured out.
This week's life work session is humility.
Right, exactly. And we have so much humility at the same time. But I mean, we've laughed about this, but I also think like, our heart is for how do we share this? Like, how do we put this out there?
Well, and not only, I think we both have girls,
yes,
right, that are younger.
Right.
So my daughter, especially, I mean, I was on the phone with her before this saying, okay, here's what we're going to do.
Right.
And she was
what do I wear?
Cracking up. I mean, just absolutely cracking up. But I think we have lots of conversations with our daughters, but I think, so it is for the younger generation. Like if we can pour into them, I always say, gosh, if they could not have to go through what we struggled with,
right.
how to manage this being a successful career Christian woman, mother, wife
right.
world. But also I think we're stepping into, and it's obviously become more aware recently for me, into how to parent adult kids and what to do at this phase of life. And I think the conversation about the cowboy boots last week is what put me over the edge, which again, it just led into a conversation. I said, I got cowboy boots, which I've never had cowboy boots, which that's a whole conversation about the North and the South, because we both came from the North and now it's the South. This whole thing. But then there was this moment that you and I were talking about, the fact that as a 50-plus-year-old person,
right,
can I wear cowboy boots? Like, am I allowed?
Without
With my
trying to look
shorts?
like I'm 12.
My Daisy Duke shorts with the cowboy
I
boots?
looked at a pair of shorts this weekend and I'm like, no.
We're gonna go out. We're gonna do the next one in cowboy boots and our cut-off shorts.
Right? Yeah. I was like, I don't think like knee-length shorts count. I don't think that's the look I'm going for.
Style. Like, culottes
There
and
she
cowboy
is
boots.
with her cowboy boots and her knee-length
But I
shorts.
think that was such a conversation that needs to be had. Like, I don't have so no ice
Phone
cream
rings
machine.
and turn off your phone.
Turn off the camera.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. Oops.
Look how digital we are, though.
I know.
She can shut the. Don't do it.
I can
but you
start
can
it and
control
stop
the
it
camera on
from
her.
the watch.
Oh, these are two old ladies that are
Right?
figuring
And we
that out.
have a ring that makes us look good.
We have a light.
We should take a picture of that.
We really should.
I don't have a phone.
I do. I'll take a
Take
picture
a
of us
picture of.
on the podcast.
I mean,
Right.
I'm telling you, I think this ring. I should walk around with it.
Oh,
in
look how
front
good
of
that
me.
looks.
Seriously,
Look at us.
I feel like that
is
does
so
something
funny.
for
I
us.
don't know. But I think even
Cowboy
that
boots.
piece of it, like,
Yeah.
how do we navigate now being 50 plus women who have seen success and have
Right.
had a successful marriage and are raising their kids? Not only how do we pass some of that on, but how do we navigate the next phase of life?
Yeah.
Because we're stepping into a world where I've not been there.
Right. And I think there haven't been any good mentors for us,
Right.
actually. I mean,
Agreed.
like, and there's so many things that nobody talks about, whether it's how we dress or menopause or,
Making money off of sperm donation.
right, sperm donating, what that looks like, and how do you talk your kids out of that,
Right.
right? And like,
Or
there's a
talk
whole
them into
worldview issue with that. Is there? Isn't there? I don't know. And where do we get this stuff? I don't know. But
You brought up sperm
I did.
donation.
I did. That's what guys in college used to do.
That's great money making. Again,
Oh, it's a lot.
it's a whole biblical world
It
we
is.
got to
It's a-
tackle,
but-
but
right.
man, that's a great
Right,
conversation
exactly.
to have.
But I mean, I think like we've made that so like laughable that it's not cryable.
Right.
Right. Like, I mean, having a group and an environment and like, oh my God, she's having a hot flash right in the middle of this thing. And what are we going to do about that? And fans are going to need to be a thing. Right. Like just being able to have an environment to talk about that, because our moms didn't talk about that. If our moms went to work, they worked very differently than how we work. My mom, like moms in my world didn't talk about like, I can work and have kids and take care of my marriage. It was always like, well, you're going to feel guilty about one of those things. And so I think like we've made it fun, at least. I don't know if we have any answers, but we've certainly
maybe only made it fun for each other.
and maybe
but
nobody will think
that's
it's fun,
okay.
but we think it's fun.
That's
and
okay.
we're funny.
Well, and I think Pastor Joby always talks about, your mat carriers.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I've never had mat carriers because I've been so busy. And that's looking back, if that would be something I could give somebody is early on.
Yeah.
Find some mat carriers. Not that they're not going to change throughout your life,
Right.
but he talks about the story where the 4 friends each grabbed a corner of the mat and took their, disabled friend and dropped him through the roof for Jesus to heal. And he talks about who's your 4 mat carriers. And I think that's an area where I missed striving so hard to do it all, to work, to be a mom, to, be a good wife, to be a good Christian, to be all the stuff. I didn't get mat carriers until recently.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the blessing now of finding some mat carriers.
Right.
Is it's generated conversation for me that I'm like, man,
I wish.
if we'd have been talking about this when we were starting out in our careers at 24 and 25, when I was making the decision, do I stay at home with the kids or do I keep this career? And that was a really hard place to be and a decision to make. And I did it alone because nobody had gone before me and I didn't have mat
And Sean's
carriers.
saying whatever you want to do.
Like, I love you. I support you.
Right. Yeah.
And so,
It's not a financial decision. It's what you want. Right.
And I think
I
having
agree.
mat carriers now to have those discussions is what I would hope this would be.
And like a
Digital mat carriers.
Digital mat carriers, exactly. But I think like you have always said, which I didn't really I get, but I didn't know exactly how to like land the plane for me, is like we're not preached to. So as women, right? So as I'm going through these studying the women of the Bible, it's like, so Lydia gets baptized and her household follows. That's not because she said you have to. That's not because that's a leadership characteristic that takes decades sometime to build, that people have the trust and the relationship to say, oh, wow, I want to follow that. I mean, and it's so biblical. Follow me while I'm following Jesus, right? And they all just jumped in the water and did it. And like, I don't think we ever get taught that, right? I mean, as I go through these, and I'm at the tip of the iceberg, but every woman has like 2 verses.
Yeah, not much.
And I'm like, isn't that how God's created us though?
We don't need a lot.
You get
Just
2
go.
verses and you don't get any screen time. Well,
Right.
make screen time, but like you don't really get any screen cred for all the things that you keep in place. And yet, if you go to the Bible, it's like, look at what these women did. This is leadership. Lydia is, seriously?
Yeah.
I don't know that 12 people would go, at my office would
me.
go get baptized,
Right.
because I said it was a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I just thought, wow, that's like, and as I'm studying each of them, I'm finding that like there's that kind of stuff that we never really get to hear about because it's 2 verses.
Mm-hmm.
And our whole household got baptized. Okay, well, check.
Right.
Right. So
and I think
I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, I think part of what we're hoping to see is flesh out what we really want out of this.
Yeah.
And I think what we've talked about a lot, and it came through, in my master's, I did my thesis on the women of the Bible.
Yeah.
Every woman of the Bible, what they
Yeah.
do. And that was where it kind of launched for me.
Right.
And never from the perspective of I'm a feminist, the Me movement, like that is the furthest thing from who I am or want to be. But I wanted to understand who I was and how God created me. So that was the first piece, which then led me to the dissertation. And in the dissertation, so many things came out of it. But the big one for me, one of them, was this term that I was introduced to, which was feminist theology.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we talked about. And it's not a feminist, like
feminist,
feminism.
Right.
It was just, we
could
almost call
roar.
it girl theology.
Right.
And it was just so blatant to me when they just simply said, and it was a book that a guy wrote in the 30s. It was an old book. And he said, 12 disciples were men, 66 books of the Bible, all men.
Yeah.
And yet, and even in our evangelical world, it's predominantly all male pastors and male teachers. Right. And I agree with all that, which again, that can be a great conversation for another
that's a
day.
list. We should be making a list.
Talk about all these things, but
it's being recorded, so we don't have to make a list.
We can go ahead. We have a recordings. But it's this idea that we are, as a society, very quick to say men and women are different, right? Men are like waffles, women are like spaghettis. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We have all the books and all the stuff. But when it comes to the Bible, we only get it from a male perspective. And that's the way God designed it. And I'm not fighting that, but I'm recognizing that, gosh, I would have learned better if it would have been brought to me in a way that I would have understood it.
Just like, I wonder what Lydia was feeling. Right? When you watch your whole household come behind you to do this, and you think this is the biggest moment of their lives, and you think about the people that's going to impact. And I think like that's an emotion that I would be like teary. Yeah. Going, oh my gosh, what a proud moment. Look what God has done in my life. And look how God has used me. Right. And I think like there's so many times like that where I would love to just share that so that we can have a confidence, because culture says if we're going to be in business, if we're going to run something, we're supposed to look like a man. And these are the characteristics. I mean, the first start of my career, I had a bow tie and suits, and I had to wear pantyhose. I wasn't allowed to wear pants.
I Googled for the life work position a lot, how to be corporate, how to look corporate. Because they kept saying, you have to be corporate. You have to be corporate. I don't know what corporate is.
I know. Seriously.
So, I had to Google it.
I worked downtown. I had to have pantyhose and skirts.
Yeah. Well, and even now, I sit on 2 boards, and I'm the only girl on both boards.
Right.
So, and they're wonderful people. Wonderful. They're godly organizations. It's not a slam. It's not a slight.
It's not bashing at all.
No, it's just a reality that every meeting, yesterday, I was sitting in a meeting yesterday for the board meeting, and it was all men and me.
Right.
And they're having a full conversation, and my feelings about it and my responses were completely different than all of them. And thankfully, they're amazing, and they welcome it, and they listen it. But it is, it is a world that not everybody has to navigate, and not everybody's called to it.
But I was also like very like I was
to
very,
take a drink from your cup of Joe.
There's an advertisement for me.
Cup of Joe.
By Cup of Joe. We thank our sponsors because we couldn't do this without places like this. And Cup of Joe, we're so grateful. Here's the Cup of Joe. Cheers. I was like, okay, I have to be loud. I have to be objective. I can't, like, it took me a long, long time. And I think women struggle with that because culture says if you're going to be successful, it needs to look like this. And then you have to go home and cuddle your kids or whatever, right?
Yeah, how
You
to
know?
transition. The
Yeah.
transitions from work to home
Yeah,
are some of the
another one,
hardest, right?
Right.
So,
But I think, you know, I would love to say that we know what we're talking about
Yeah.
and that we've mastered it, and we don't.
No.
But I think, you know, to answer the question, I think it's because we really believe, like, in our hearts, and I feel like God's put it on both of our hearts to be like, just tell people.
Yeah.
And if nobody listens, it's
that's okay.
we can give it to our
And then you and I, we were meeting anyway, so
Right.
now we're just meeting on video. So if it doesn't change anybody or
and
nobody
we look
watches,
good with the light. So,
Right.
I mean,
made me get dressed up.
If
I
nothing
didn't have to wear a
else, you know,
sweatshirt
we
today.
should lipstick on.
That's right.
But
That's
anyway,
it.
so that was like one of my.
Yeah. I think that's it. And then the other reason, trying to be innovative, like you said, but
Yeah.
so my husband listens to, two things. A, our husbands probably won't listen to this.
No.
Because there's lots of conversations about them. So we're just gonna
exactly. Actually,
probably
we're gonna
don't
block
want to
them.
listen to that. Probably don't want to listen to this. But
We're always
he,
our hearts.
we
are in
love
the right
them.
place.
Let's
Yes,
just preface
our
that
hearts are
we
in the right
love
place.
them.
One of these days we're gonna do it with alcohol, and it's gonna be really
It's
good.
gonna be better. That's we're gonna switch. That's why these are dark.
Sorry if that offended
You don't
anyone.
really know what's
There's
in
a
here.
margarita machine right there.
Not lemonade, I promise.
We need a name. Thought about poured
So
out.
we need a name. So if we put this out there and people start watching it, I think
Yes.
that's part of it. What
What do we call it?
do we call it?
What is it?
And where do we put it? That
We
was my
did
question
start
last
with,
night.
Like, pour it out. Like it's just an opportunity to just
Pour it
talk
out.
to somebody that's not my spouse,
Mhm.
who's not going to necessarily get it, and just laugh about cowboy
And that's
boots,
it. I want it to be
right?
light. And that's where my husband listens to a podcast, Nate Bargatze. And I'm
Okay.
going to throw that out there. So if Nate